Welcome to today's webinar, Efficient Linen Management for Hotels, Reduce Costs and Enhance Guest Experiences. We're thrilled to have you here today. My name is Brittany Colby, and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at Linen Master and Infinite Laundry, and I'll be your host and moderator today. Let's introduce our speaker today. Sarah St. Clair is the Chief Customer Officer here at Linen Master and Infinite Laundry, where she helps spearhead strategic customer and partner initiatives to foster company growth. Sarah has an extensive background leading successful organizations and creating innovative sales, customer service, and marketing techniques in the laundry and linen industry. Prior to finding her home in laundry, Sarah specialized in driving customer satisfaction, employee retention, and overall organizational growth in the hospitality industry for more than 10 years. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Sarah to begin the presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Brittany. Really appreciate you hosting us here today for all of your work and efforts to bring us together on this important topic and for the lovely introduction. Welcome. We're pleased to have you with us to learn more about linen management in hotels. I'd like to go over briefly the agenda that we're going to work through together in this webinar today, and then we'll move through some of the exciting talking points that we're excited to collaborate with you on in the future. So first, we'll talk a little bit about who Linen Master is, why we're so passionate about this topic. Then we'll move into challenges we know are being faced in the hotel and hospitality industry today, especially with linen management. And then we'll start talking about the importance of efficient linen management in your facilities and businesses, and then move on to some solutions, suggestions for how you can solve these issues, prevent issues, just mitigate the potential for having linen management issues in your facility. And then we'll take it from there into the Q&A like Brittany spoke to. So to start, a little more about Linen Master as a business and our evolution in linen management. We were founded in 1995, originally known as Computer Software Architects, and we started as an ERP, or an enterprise resource planning platform for industrial or commercial laundries. And that is Linen Master as a product today. And we serve over 250 laundries nationwide and some international as well. Shortly after, and this is where we really want to dive in a little bit, we had the launch of a product called Linen Helper. So just a few years later, Linen Helper was launched, and it became the laundry industry's premier solution for linen inventory and distribution management. And this is linen inventory and distribution management that takes place in facilities serviced by commercial and industrial laundries, like a hotel or a hospital. And for a while, Linen Helper was primarily used in a healthcare setting, serving healthcare facilities over 1,600 today nationwide. But over time, it's become more relevant that hotels and other hospitality facilities have a specific need and demand for clear linen management and efficient linen management throughout all of the businesses, whether it be a chain or a standalone facility. It is a critical aspect of managing guest experiences and managing those facilities. So this is the product that is really created to help you manage all of those types of linens. And the reason why we're so passionate with our experiencing and helping over 1,600 facilities be successful with these programs today about talking to hospitality linen management in this webinar. And then after that, we'll just wrap it up really quickly. We went cloud-based pretty early. We also went remote pretty early. We've been a remote company for many years, even pre-COVID. And more recently, we had an exciting transfer of ownership and also have received an investment from Mainsail Partners, who is our growth equity partner. And we're very excited about that and our more recent acquisition of the marketing firm Infinite Laundry. So that's just a little bit about where we are today, where we came from, and why we are so passionate about this topic. If we move on to the next part of the presentation in the next slide, let's go ahead and hit home where everybody is really wondering what comes next. And those are the challenges that are currently being faced in hotel linen management. These probably are no stranger to any of you, especially if you are deeply embedded in the day-to-day management of hotel linens. But what we've learned over time from our customers and from hotels specifically is that they are constantly combating linen loss. Linen loss meaning theft, misplacement, wear and tear of items. Um, could also mean that there's just a difficult time tracking items and they exist, but it's unknown. There are a lot of different challenges that come with linen loss, and obviously, it's a very high cost issue to maintain across any type of hotel or a chain of hotels. So, we recognize that that is a standout issue. We'll actually have a special focus on this. We have a whole slide dedicated to it later. So, you'll see it come up when we're talking about linen management programs and solutions, but we'll dedicate a little more time to that one specifically, just knowing it plagues basically every hotel that's in existence. And the second is, of course, shortages and overstocks. Being short clean linens is clearly a massive issue. You don't want to have a guest experience where someone is impacted by not having what they need to enjoy the experience in your facility. As a matter of fact, we, as our marketing firm a few years ago, we ran a campaign, and we run a campaign every year. It's for International Linen and Uniform Services Day, and it's dedicated to helping people understand what the laundry industry really does to provide them in their day-to-day lives. So, for example, an incredible experience at a hotel. Part of that, obviously, being supported by the linens, the clean bed sheets, the memory of the crisp way everything was folded, and the presentation of it when someone came to stay in your facility. But in this specific campaign, we kind of made it like a scary movie poster. And that poster depicted a guest with no bed sheets, no towels, like it was a horror movie. And that's because we know that's the experience that comes forward should there not be the right amount of linens or laundry present in a room when a guest comes to stay with you. So, with that being the case, shortages, we can't have those. You've got to be ready to go, and the room has to be clean to enable exceptional guest experiences. But then you also have the opposite of that issue, which is overstocking or overages. Overstocking can seem innocent at the time, but the wasted dollars and resources can negatively impact your budget. It can impact your ability to store those items or even process those items through your systems. And of course, it can negatively impact your relationship with your laundry vendor. If you are maintaining regular audits, you'll have better control over stock. You'll reduce the risk of running into these issues. And that's some of what we'll get into a bit today. But we know that being short or having too much is also a wildly relevant issue, and we will address that topic throughout this presentation. And the third common challenge that we've learned from Linen Helper users is inefficient laundry processes being a problem. So slow turnaround times that can disrupt your hotel observation, obviously partnering with a reliable laundry partner if you don't have it in-house, or improving your in-house processes. That is obviously going to enable you to have what you need when you need it. And we know it's not a perfect science, right? We don't claim that there's any one solution that's going to mean you have the 100% perfect stock ready to go at all times. But there are ways that you can certainly support your facility in ensuring you have very close to that. You're hitting on your budgets, your staff feels equipped and prepared to do what they need to do, and your guests are having an overall exceptional experience based on the way you're presenting your rooms. So once again, common challenges we know of, problems that are impacting your efficiency and your costs, which are everything when we're running a facility like a hotel day to day. Next, we're going to talk about the importance of an overall efficient linen management process that supports some of these challenges. So if we want to move on to the next slide. The importance of efficient linen management. So managing the challenges we just addressed, but really, what do those boil down to? And we touched a little bit on some of these topics in the last slide, but number one, guest satisfaction. Back to that ad being a scary movie, that's really how a guest feels if they walk in and there's no towels or there are no sheets on their bed. That's personally never happened to me. I hope it never does. But we certainly want to make sure that our best foot is being put forward when we're inviting guests into the rooms and that we're meeting their expectations. The second is operational efficiency. The ultimate goal of linen management, it's what I like to call the Goldilocks effect. You don't have too little, you never have too much, but your on-hand levels are just right. And that means you're not calling out emergency orders to your laundry, whether it be in or out of house. It also means you're not going to get overbilled for hanging on to too much inventory. This is what we just addressed earlier with the challenge of the right amount of stock management so you don't have shortages or overages. But an efficient linen management program will really enable you to perform consistent counts and leverage the data to forecast trends to help you stock your orders or your usage areas in accordance with your occupancy rates or what's expected for your guest stays. And then the third point here that's really important to be controlled is clearly budget. And when we pull back the curtains and take a closer look, linens are a huge expense for any hotel, and it's critical to have a firm handle on the financial aspect of managing this in a facility. So being able to forecast your expenses, stay within a budget. We know that people leading these types of programs in a hotel have a lot of constraints, and it's critical that efficient linen management processes and programs are enabling you to work through the day-to-day and feel really close to the budget, or that you're meeting expectations or exceeding them. And then the last point we have on here is sustainability. So preserving the life cycle of textiles, not only for quality purposes, for your guest satisfaction, but for the purposes of reducing our environmental impact. This is a rising trend with textile management, linen management, just making sure you have the right reusables in place, making sure that the quality is meeting your expectations, and being able to track that, like life cycle counts of your items, knowing which materials are more or less effective in your environment. This is a big deal and a large component of an effective linen management program. Again, key benefits of proper linen management: you're going to see enhanced guest satisfaction. Fresh, high-quality linens create a great impression. Budget-wise, cost savings, minimize loss, optimize purchasing decisions, and of course, those operational efficiencies always spill out of a great program, such as streamlined distribution, making sure people know exactly which items should be stored where in a facility, everything having its right place or placement. And then, of course, sustainability. Once again, reducing our footprint, being water, energy, and even detergent consumption. So turnaround times on those rooms, what it takes to stock a room, where it's stored and that it's easily accessible, making sure you have the right levels of those items in your facilities, all critical as part of an efficient linen management program. Again, this plays a lot back into the challenges, knowing the way you have to be efficient to support some of those challenges. Again, highlighting linen loss, shortages and overstocks, and inefficient processes that could lead you down a path where this becomes an issue on the day-to-day. Next, what we'll do is we'll talk about evaluating your linen management strategy today so that you can measure success and continuously improve over time. So if we move on to the next slide. If you're really looking at what your linen management strategy or your program, whatever you may have in place today is managing, these are some KPIs that we've learned are pretty critical to knowing if you are efficient today, if you can make improvements, or where you can absorb the most improvement across the board. So some of those KPIs, cost per occupied room, CPOR, that's measuring linen expense per guest stay. In some of the programs we've seen, it's also really important that you're measuring against occupancy rates. You can run trends and understand seasonality in your facility and how that's going to impact your linen, your stock, your PAR levels in the facility. Also, linen loss rate, so identifying the percentage of missing or damaged linens across a facility or even across a hotel chain or multiple different facilities. Pretty critical that you know how quickly you're churning out different items and that you're able to hone in on which items churn out the fastest, what are the most preserved, what takes more to process. Like a comforter is much more difficult to clean and turn around to spec than maybe a hand towel, for example. So just tracking your losses on those, making sure you understand the cost impact. But linen loss rate is one of those top KPIs to understand How are you performing today? And is that somewhere you could improve in measuring that KPI? And then laundry turnaround time. How quickly are you able to send your items out and get them back, or send them to your own laundry and get them back? Are there longer turnaround times on some specialty items versus others? How are you tracking them? Do you have any technology enforced to make sure you understand the tracking? Are you scanning items in and out? Are you tracking them via a log? Do you know and have a relationship with your laundry provider, or are your internal laundry services helping you understand return time forecast or when you're going to have what you need back in your hands? And then, of course, guest feedback. So satisfaction is everything. You certainly want to make sure you're evaluating your guest feedback. We all receive feedback naturally, whether it's invited or not, but there are certain ways to measure it and then compare it back to your performance to ensure that you are meeting the expectations of people who are staying in your facilities and investing time in staying with your brand every single day, or when they're on vacation, whatever the reason may be. So it's pretty critical that you're measuring these key performance indicators in your linen management program. And an initial overview or review of these key performance indicators, or at least making sure that you have a way to get your hands on this data, is critical to know how a current linen management program might be performing and where your biggest opportunities for change lie in your facility or across your business today. So yeah, those are some of the best ones that we found. We see it all the time. Customers and the facilities where Linen Helper exists are always asking what those KPIs look like. And these are some pretty strong KPIs to measure against. So just one quick review. Again, we went over challenges, the importance of efficient linen management. We're talking about evaluating your program. And now we're going to talk about ways and steps to streamline linen management, including how to improve linen tracking and usage, which is part of what we would recommend in an overall linen management program. So we'll touch on that. Then we'll get back to reducing linen loss and a little more on leveraging technology to make sure that you're positioning yourself in the best way possible today. So if we'll move to the next slide, we'll talk about steps to streamline linen management in your facility now. So if we've talked about challenges, and maybe you have one challenge that's more of a standout than other, and then perhaps you've been able to establish your KPIs or leverage some of the KPIs we discussed in evaluating the current performance of your linen management program, or seeing a new opportunity to invest in putting a linen management program formally in place. Now we can talk about ways we can streamline and some things you can implement to ensure that a linen management program proves successful. One is to implement an inventory tracking system. Manual tracking is prone to errors and it can be time consuming. So you might have a clipboard, you might have a spreadsheet. Some of those programs can be wildly effective depending on participation and also consistency, right? We know consistency is pretty critical when it comes to a linen management program, but it is more prone to errors if you're working through this manually. It's something that can get lost. I used to have some people tell me when we were initially discussing some technology forward programs, yes, that clipboard that we have that circulates, that puppy gets lost. And when we lose the clipboard, we lose time. We lose a lot of energy, and it's very difficult to manage that. Or there's a lot of fat fingering that happens when we're trying to compute items or counts back into the web portal day to day. It's kind of tedious. It'd be great if it would just upload and boom, we'd have our numbers and it was clear and transparent across the board. And even if some kind of program prevents us, throws an error, if they think we're not entering something properly, that would be critical. So it's really difficult to do it manually. If you are doing it manually and you're successful at it, that's an incredible accomplishment. But just consider other options that are out there today, especially with the advancements in technology, including individual identifiers per item, such as RFID chips or barcodes that allow items to be tracked in real time, depending on when you're identifying them or scanning them. For example, entering your facility, perhaps you're scanning everything that comes in. If you're not familiar with RFID scanning, there are bulk scanners that could scan hundreds of pounds of laundry in the same few seconds. So you know that when they've entered the facility, you're able to track if they leave the facility. If you're partnering with a laundry, perhaps they have tracking when they can let you know items have entered or are leaving the facility or are even in a certain part of a wash cycle. You can also buy a unique identifier that's scanned, even like a barcode, have specific tracking information on that item. How many times has it left the facility? How many times has it been washed or processed? How many times has it been stored on the same floor, the same type of room? Is this like a super high-end sheet that's only used in a suite? There's just a ton of information that you can track if you do have unique identifiers in your linens or textiles. A tracking or inventory system could be RFID or barcodes, could be weight scales just to understand the loads that you're bringing in and out of the facility or what's being distributed to an individual storage area. But some stuff to look for are real-time inventory updates that benefit from an inventory tracking system, automated low stock alerts. So can you imagine you have your counts completed for the day and you get a report back that lets you know where you're kind of bordering a low stock, or an alert midday to say, hey, the linen storage room on floor 3 is really running low and you're going to need to order something for an emergency. Just something proactive coming to you. It's really invaluable. So that's kind of critical. And of course, touched on the usage and lifespan of those items that you really get back from that detailed tracking capability. The second step to streamline linen management we're highlighting today is to standardize linen handling procedures. And that might feel very common sense, how are we handling linens today? Is everyone educated on it? We've learned a lot about turnover in facilities like hotels, and turnover can be something that's very difficult to combat. You have a fantastic housekeeping staff. You're working with them closely day to day. You lose one, maybe you lose someone with a lot of knowledge, and your standardized procedures might become more of an unknown. And so it's important that you do have some kind of training material in place, a reference for people to be able to understand what are the linen handling procedures that are in place. How do we ensure everything is consistent, that the quality is the same across the board, the availability is present, and that we're all on the same page. Sometimes you can find a great partner, a vendor partner who will help partner with you to ensure that these standards are clear, even when they are speaking with your housekeeping staff. But making sure you have those standards in place, making them known and training on them is critical to ensuring future success in your linen management program. And then number 3, partner with your linen or textile rental provider. So I talked about this just a second ago, but that goes right into training your staff and sorting, collecting, transporting, and inspecting linens, reducing damage through proper handling guidelines, all of that also being super transparent and having your vendor support you in those efforts. And conducting regular audits. It really is critical to have consistency in your counts, number 1. So even your daily counts, consistency across the board is 100% critical. If you're not taking time to count, if you're not counting consistently, you're not going to have great data to report on over time. So, whether it be, or I'm going to take my counts, maybe not an entire inventory, but we're going to count every single linen storage room, let's say 3 times a week. Maybe it's daily. The more frequent, the better. The more data, the better. But whatever that frequency is, establishing it, making sure it's part of your standardized procedures, and then enforcing people and making sure they're accountable to really delivering in those expectations. That's where the data is going to help you identify patterns of loss, overuse, inefficiencies. It's also going to allow you to audit who counted, which storage area last, who might be responsible for an overage or shortage or possibly some missing items. And again, it's going to enable you to make data-driven adjustments to your linen management policies. So your day-to-day counts are critical, but then your overall audits are also critical to make sure that the daily stock, the daily PARs, the daily counts that are coming through are reflective of the demand of your facility. So you know where the discrepancies are, and you know where you might need to make larger scale changes across the board. So 4 steps, there's not even 5 here. So 4 is good. 2 and 3 are really almost a combined effort. It's a little bit of a divide between the two, but getting a handle on standardized procedures across the board is what's going to make you most successful in streamlining your linen management program. Now, I got to deliver on a promise I made, and we'll move on to the next slide where we will focus specifically on tips for reducing linen loss, knowing that that really is a key challenge in hotels today. Now you see it, now you don't, right? It's wildly impactful, and I myself have witnessed people just rolling their cart out the door with their luggage and several fancy pool towels to go along with it, which is never an ideal circumstance. But I know that as a hotel, it's critical to face the reality of what loss might look like. And the key there is reducing impact of what that is, and managing it to the best of your ability. So up here is a huge standout, and I'll read it word for word because it's sure to resonate with anybody who's running a facility and hotel today where linen loss is impacting you. And it's estimated hotels lose 20 to 30% of their linen inventory at a cost of more than $50,000 a year to general wear and tear, theft, and poor control systems when transporting linen to and from laundry plants. So certainly want to mitigate that, lower any impact that it might have in a hotel. It is something that's probably more than $50,000 for a lot, especially depending on the size of your facility, the quality of the items that you're using day to day, and also whether you do have a current linen management program in place or not. But there are some clear ways, and we've spoken to a few of these things earlier, but we're going to get a little more granular in this slide just to hone in on that loss reduction. So one is the clear linen policy. We talked a little bit about policy alignment before and procedures, but this isn't just for your staff. This is also a way that you can have your guests participate in a program that's going to help you reduce linen loss. A great example of that, two things I've experienced as a hotel guest that are great examples. One, a towel reusage program. So, hey, if you don't want to, or if you are willing not to have your room serviced or cleaned for a day, I think in some cases, like in lieu of that service, they might have donated a meal somewhere. Or, if you wish to skip You're Helping Our Green initiative, whatever education was provided to me as a guest, it was encouraging me that I might not need an entire changeover of my room every night while I was staying there. I personally always appreciate that. I always heed to that. So I think that's a great way to do it. Another way that is a really cool way I've seen hotels try to help maintain the quality of their items is by giving their guests a makeup towel. So not every towel is a makeup towel, as people who manage linens know, but guests certainly may treat every item in the room like a makeup towel, and it can be difficult to get those stains out of your regular everyday washcloth, hand towel, etc. So the purposeful makeup towel or even the disposable makeup wipes are encouraging the guest to use the proper items or the proper vehicles of makeup remover than the items that we don't want to be damaged. So putting that information out there, not only for your internal staff for proper linen policies and use and storage, but also your guests and how they can contribute to that loss reduction. The second is tracking linen usage by department. We can talk about by storage area, and maybe you have multiple storage areas, depending on the size of the hotel, on every floor, or maybe you have it all in one place and it's run up to different rooms and areas. Whatever the case is, it's exceptional when you're able to track it by a specific department of who is using what. So, for example, housekeeping may be tracked separately from the spa, right? Or the spa might be tracked separately from an on-site restaurant. But what you're doing there is you're becoming more granular so you can hone in on where the loss is actually occurring. If you're just counting general storage areas or you don't have organized storage areas that are cohesive, it's really easy to say, oh man, looks like we have to order $50,000 more in all kinds of items, and we're not really sure where it is or where it's going. So having those organized storage areas and the right distribution within the facility tracking down to the department to make sure you're monitoring usage trends and identifying areas of improvement is really critical. And again, consistency in those counts just to ensure that the investment of your time in gathering that data is actually something you can leverage for future business decisions. And then we always see a trend with branding linens. Branding linens meaning your hotel logo, or you have an RFID tag, some kind of indicator that can track where the linen may have escaped to, in or out of your facility. It just helps track misplaced items more efficiently. It just gives it that kind of tag, and it can also specify the type of loss that it was. If you're seeing items disappear day to day in a specific process, like when they come back from the laundry, they're suddenly missing versus, after a guest stay, it's just so much easier to pinpoint those occurrences in time and report out on it to know exactly where the bulk of your linen loss is occurring across the facility. But 20 to 30% a year, man, that's a big impact. Definitely worth a solution. Most definitely worth some kind of program, even something that's simplified just to be in place to give you the data to leverage to make changes is pretty critical. But what we'd like to do is talk about technology and leveraging technology in these processes for tracking and running your linen management programs so that it takes the heavy burden off of you manually. It also really brings teams together. It gives them one process to follow. It gives them one clear tool to use. And if you partner with the right vendor, really helping to encourage your team, get the buy-in and the why and why it makes their lives so much easier to participate in that program. So we move to the next slide. We're going to go over leveraging technology in linen management and really how digital solutions improve efficiency. And here, we're going to highlight some of that technology. So we talked about Linen Helper. We know it exists, and this is a key product of our business, Linen Master. Linen Helper literally developed to help you manage linens. It is your helper and your aid and your best friend in this process. And here's how it works. There is a phone application, Android or iOS systems. You download it, and then you're going to be able to log in. So for the purposes of making this kind of concept come to life, we'll say Brittany's Hotel, and she has hired an entire housekeeping staff to manage all of the linens in the facility. And that housekeeping staff is going to leverage a tool like Linen Helper or Linen Helper itself to make sure the program is seen out thoroughly. And so everyone on her team is going to download the phone app. The phone app is going to allow people to count items within the palm of their hands, meaning as the housekeeping staff changes items out of rooms, leverages inventory from whatever storage area is present to stock and replenish those rooms, they're going to take notice of everything on hand, anything that's misplaced. They can either manually enter those numbers, or if you have a unique identifier programmed within an item, such as a barcode or an RFID chip, they're going to scan those items into the system. And over time, what that's going to do is make it very clear what's available to be used in all of the rooms, what needs to be ordered that you are low on stock, what may need to be replenished into a storage area from an overall stock room, what you have in inventory versus what you don't. And sometimes if your laundry partner is using specific programs, it can even automatically place orders depending on your daily expectations or your weekly needs or whatever you've set up in a relationship as an ordering and delivery process with your laundry partner. So it really automates the entire program. And having this unique login per user, simple email password, in this app format allows tracking as well. So at Brittany's Hotel, she hires me on housekeeping. Everything I do on that application will be tracked. How much time it took me to make a count, when I entered those counts, if I counted a room I don't normally count. So it makes it really easy from an overarching linen management role to jump in and be able to say, there's a discrepancy here. This didn't happen according to expectations. We're missing counts for room A, B, C, D. Sarah should have made those today. How come they were skipped? It's just an incredible way to have transparency across the business. Again, if everyone in the facility is using that tool, super easy, handheld, right there, accessible, then you're going to start having this flow of data come to you. Everyone's going to follow the same process, and it's really going to ensure you have tight counts all the way around, which we know is critical for linen management programs. And then there's also an overarching web portal. All of the counts taken in this awesome application, they're going to stream back into a web portal where you can log in, perhaps a housekeeping manager, perhaps a hotel general manager, perhaps a regional manager, and have a bird's eye view of the progress of all of the counts that have taken place in a hotel for that day, everything that is overstocked, on par, or understocked, what needs to be ordered, what the expectations are for placing that order. And again, this is where you're going to be able to leverage that data in a reporting format where you can go ahead and look at trends, track your spend, track item cycles, understand where everything is located and stored for the day. And then you can make really informed decisions to drive your business forward, to make that budget, to reduce that 20 to 30% loss. Let's save that 50 grand, let's save it. Let's save more than that. And you can certainly do it by leveraging technology, not really having to worry about the double entry of an item from a clipboard or coming back at the end of a long day and trying to make sure all the counts were put in throughout the day manually and that everything is correct. This is really going to take the edge off of that process, streamline it, make it easy, super transparent, and turn it into actionable items you can push forward to make positive change. Really interesting type of program. The simpler, the better. The more you can have your partner come in and train your people and keep those processes consistent and get your buy-in, the better. We certainly do that with Linen Helper. And anything like this being cloud-based so that you can legitimately access it from anywhere in real time over the internet. Wow, what a tool to help enable your success. And if you're wondering, we move to the next slide, what the next steps might look like. Streamlining everything for success is what we aim to support everybody in. It's what we hope you will do after you walk away from this webinar with the key takeaways. We hope efficient linen management in your facility reduces costs. We hope that it improves guest satisfaction and enhances sustainability. We recommend that you take a peek at technology if you're not using it today, like RFID, linen tracking software, and just consider the way that can transform your hotel linen operations. And if you are using a product like that, perhaps analyze it to make sure that you're partnering with a business who can help you train, maintain consistency, help you with benchmarking data, and really get the buy-in for those processes in your facility. Don't forget to conduct an internal linen audit. So fun, we know. And don't forget, explore those software solutions. You can even get a demo of Linen Helper. I'm sure we'll send some information to help enable you to do that. And consider outsourcing linen or rental laundry services if you haven't already. There are great partners out there nationwide who I'm sure would be lucky to partner with any hotel out there in striving towards better linen management processes. That is the bulk of what we have for you today. I believe we've had some questions come through during the presentation, and Brittany is letting me know it's time to answer some of those. So I'm happy to do that, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the content so far.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was so insightful. Awesome. Well, we did have some pre-submitted questions come in from our audience, so we can go ahead and dive into those. So our first question is, how can this be applied to vacation rentals?
Oh, that's a really good question. We actually have someone who's come up and wanting to use Linen Helper at vacation rentals, and it depends on your linen management process. So where you store your items matters for vacation rentals. If you have like a general storage facility, this is clearly going to help you with inventory. Inventory management, you can count what that inventory is every day and understand from a broader level what you need to replenish. You can also have storage within each one of your rental properties. So it might be your linen closet in a rental property. There's, every time I go to an Airbnb, there's like the mystery locked closet. I assume they're storing something in there, perhaps linens that they would replenish or clean the facility when I'm finished with it, with my stay. And if that's the case, Linen Helper could absolutely track what you have in there, what you need to replenish in terms of stock, what you might need new of, especially if you see that there's wear and tear on an item. It's just going to make sure you have the right items in rotation. Specifically, best used if you have someone else cleaning those areas for you. So let's say you're an owner of multiple rental properties or Airbnbs, whatever it might be. You hire an outsourced cleaning agency that's going to maintain the turnover of those properties. They could download the app and it could be under your management, and they can tell you exactly what's in stock in that facility and what they know you need to replenish or they need to replenish. And then you would know what that looks like on site for each individual rental property or vacation property. Pretty much just giving you the transparent information you need and then tracking it over time and trends of what are the hot times of the year? What's the seasonality look like? What do you need more? You need more comforters in the winter? Is it something with a shower curtain because you have another issue? It's stuff like that that you really collect data on and figure out over time.
Great. Our next question is, what should hotels look for when choosing a linen management software or provider?
I worked in hospitality for many, many years, and I think there are some really important things to look for here. One is a great partner with a simple product, meaning it can't be overly complicated for people who are trying to work efficiently and quickly on the day-to-day, and that's what we're trying to do in a hotel, right? We've got housekeeping staff. They need to get rooms turned over. They need what they need when they need it, and they need to make sure they're not spending too much time on tedious tasks. So having something that's really easy to use, understandable for pretty much anybody if they're coming to the job on day one new and they have to leverage a program, that's critical. So simple and fast and efficient. The second component is a partner who has great references or training materials. So a knowledge library you can access if someone does have a quick question. They come up on a snag in taking account and they need assistance at the snap of a finger. They don't have time to wait 20, 30, 40 minutes on a support line for an answer. They don't have time to go through rigorous training programs. So a partner who is going to enable you with any type of available data, assistance, or training to support your success. And then third, I would say experience in the field of what they're providing software for. So like Linen Master being in laundry and linen management since 1995, we're coming up on 30 years of experience in understanding a user's perspective. And I think that's critical so that we can carry that out on behalf of our end users being awesome clients like hotels.
Following up on that question, someone asked, how long does it typically take to implement a linen management solution?
Great question. Not long, actually. To be clear, some could take longer than others. From experience as chief customer officer for this business and implementing thousands of these linen management programs through Linen Helper, really just a few days, potentially a week. It does depend on your ability to inform us on your facility and the time you have to do that. So really, there's an initial investment of time of us getting to know how you complete operations. What are your storage areas called? How do you name them? That's all customizable. That might take an hour or two to get that data put into the system. And then from there, it is basic training and you are ready to go. So really just a few days of initial investment up front to get rolling on a program as streamlined and as simple as Linen Helper. Although I'm sure others could take longer. I would certainly consider the investment in that startup time when you're making a decision.
Awesome. Well, it looks like that's all the questions that we had. Sarah, did you want to have any closing remarks to leave our audience with?
Yeah, just that we so much appreciate you coming today. We hope that there's a future potential to discuss this with you more. We're wildly invested in this being a successful program for hotels. We are very passionate about the laundry industry, textiles and linens and how they're managed and how it impacts everyone. So whatever suggestions you have, you ever want to have a conversation or just say hello, even outside of the opportunity of using our programs, we'd be more than happy to oblige.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Sarah, for all of your insights today. And thank you to our attendees for joining us. We hope you found the webinar helpful, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.